Hey everyone, thanks so much for joining us today. Our conversation today is going to be a fun one. We are joined by our guest, who is an investment banker turned author of a new global adventure-filled book and film series called Britfield, which has been countering the sorcery found in Harry Potter and the breakdown of family values. Chad Stewart, with his first book of the series called Britfield and the Lost Crown, is fostering creativity and critical thinking worldwide. Before we meet Chad, I wanted to tell you about Mike Lindell's numerous products available on his MyPillow website. Before I started this podcast, I literally had no idea how many different products he offered. We recently had Mike Lindell on from MyPillow, and he was sharing about the high quality of his slippers, pillows, towels, and sheets, and yet they're priced so affordably. If you like what you hear and it's a blessing to you in any way and helps you at all, please go to mypillow.com and type in the code MISSION today to support the Moms on Mission podcast. That's mypillow.com, code MISSION. And we would be so very grateful. We would love to hear from you. If you would email us at moms@momsonamission.net. That's moms@momsonamission.net. If you have any thoughts, comments, questions, show ideas, please email us and let us know that you're listening. We just love to connect with you all. And then also you can check out our website at momsonamission.net. That's momsonamission.net. And we'd be so honored if you followed us on your favorite platform. We prefer Rumble because it's uncensored. So just go into the Rumble app, go into the search engine, type in Moms on a Mission, and then click the follow icon. And we would be so grateful. Hi, Chad. Welcome to Moms on a Mission. We're so glad to have you here today.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad to be here.
So, Chad, tell us a little bit more about who you are and what you do.
Sure. I'm originally from Newport Beach, California. I was back east, Wellesley, Massachusetts, for about 16 years, which is a whole nother world. And that's where I did my undergraduate in British literature and European history. And then I went on to postgraduate and then graduate and got my MBA. And then I was actually an investment banker. I got into banking and investment and consulting, things like that. And kind of a world away from really my background in Newport Beach when I was growing up, which was really creative. I loved creativity. I loved writing. I started as a script writer when I was 18, really just taking classes and learning how to write movies because I was always fascinated with movies. I love movies. And we can talk a little bit about that. And so it was about 12 years ago that I was sent down to this boring seminar in Providence, Rhode Island. I think it was insurance, and I had to go. And it was like a weekend, and it was just brutal. And I started to drift, and I started to doodle, and I doodled a little circle, 3 lines, basket, boy and a girl, and I wrote The Boy and the Balloon. And that was my aha moment. That was my moment, right? I connected with this image and this idea, and all of a sudden I started to see this whole story come together in my mind. And I thought of it, about Tom. He's an orphan, 12 years old, takes place in England, present day, present time, up in Yorkshire, Northern England, at this horrible orphanage, Weatherly Orphanage. He's been an orphan his whole life. He's been at Weatherly for 6 years, and this is the year he escapes, but he's not going anywhere without his best friend, Sarah. And somewhere along the lines, they commandeer a hot air balloon, but they're relentlessly chased by the illustrious Detective Gowerstone. And so that was kind of the concept. And I lived off and on in England for about 2 years, and loved England, loved British history, loved the literature. And that's kind of why I wanted to take place there. And so I sat down, started to write Britfield and the Lost Crown. It took me 4 years, 2,500 hours to produce book 1 in a 7-book series, and it's 384 pages. So we officially launched in August 2019. And so from concept and doodle to launching, it was 10 years of hard work, dedication, frustration, rejection, depression, all of it, right? A roller coaster, 10,000 hours of this, more than a book, a movement in literacy, movement in literature, movement in family values. And so since we've launched, it's become, it's been the top 1% of all books ever published within the same time frame. It's a national bestseller. It's one of the most awarded books in children's fiction. And we kicked off a national school tour, multiple school tours, and I ended up driving 9,000 miles. I visited 23 states, over 200 schools, and presented in front of more than 40,000 students. And it was incredible and awesome. Since then, we launched book 2, Britfield and the Return of the Prince. Britfield and the Rise of the Lion, book 2, takes place in France. We launched that in 2021. And then last year, you can see behind me, Britfield and the Return of the Prince. It's 575 pages, takes place in Italy. We launched that last September, and now I'm working on book 4, Britfield and the Eastern Empire. And so the 7-book series will travel all the way around the world. Book 1, Tom and Sarah are 12. Book 2, they're 13. Book 3, they're 14. And then they kind of grow, by 1 year in every book, which is exciting. And every book is a new country or countries. And it's really, what's great about it in many ways is, number one, it's based in present time. It's not heightened fantasy. It's not futuristic. It's not post-apocalyptic. It's based in reality and authenticity. It has no witchcraft, no magic, no demigods, no mysticism, none of that stuff, which is all just sort of saturating the market. And it's a disconnect from reality. It's based on family, friendship, loyalty, and courage. And as children are reading it, as adults are reading it, they're learning about history, geography, art, architecture, and culture. And we also are hitting the 4 C's: creativity, critical thinking, communication, and collaboration, all within these fast-paced adventure series. Our youngest readers 7, our oldest readers been 93, and 55% of our reading audience are adults. So
really, see, I wanted to ask you about that. If there was a target age that you were really focusing on with your book series.
Yeah, and you got to be careful, to not be all things to all people. And so really book 1 was always sort of middle school. Absolutely. It's 384 pages. It's for middle school. That's sort of, you could say 10 to 12, and the main characters are 12 and really 13-year-olds. They'll love the book, but they don't like to read down, and then you get into book 2, Britfield and the Rise of the Lion, which takes place in France, 474 pages. Now Tom and Sarah 13, and it's a lot more intense. Right, it's kind of my Empire Strikes Back in the series, and then book 3, they're 14, which is perfect. And now you're kind of into your young adult series, and so it's the younger kids will still love it. And like I said, the youngest reader's been 7, maybe younger. I know there's some parents that'll read the Britfield series to their kids. I had a homeschool mom, I think, a couple months ago, and she just got done reading book 2, and she just loved it. She raved about it, and she goes, "Thank you so much. It was incredible." She goes, "I read it to my 5, 7, and 10-year-old," and I'm like, I don't know if I'd read book 2 to a 5-year-old, but that's all right, because it's pretty intense. But
well, I think what's interesting about it is that you're not only growing in exposure to countries, but you're also, if kids start in middle school and they start reading these, they really can grow with their reading skills. They can grow in the series, which is kind of cool, because I think sometimes some of these series are just for middle school and they really like the author, they really like the concept, but once they get into high school, I don't find that too offensive. If my son wants to read something that's below his reading level, it's just for fun. But it is kind of nice that you grow intellectually with the kids as well throughout the series.
Yeah, it's fun for me as an author. I think it's great for the kids that are reading it, and children always love to read up.
Yes,
so 12-year-olds will love to be reading. I had a 14-year-old that just got done reading Britfield and Return to the Prince, 14-year-old high school student from Virginia, and she wrote us. We get thousands of letters from around the world, actually. And she goes, "I just finished book 3." She goes, "Oh my gosh," she goes, "it's my favorite." She goes, "You're now up there with Lord of the Rings." And I thought, how cool. And again too, it's like, the feedback we're getting are from well-read kids and kids that have read the lexicon of all the other books out there. In fact, it was funny, if I have it, here it is. There's a school, I just got this a couple of weeks ago. School does this thing every year. We're in connection with thousands of schools across the nation. We're already actually in thousands of schools. We're being taught in hundreds of schools. We have an 83-page study guide based on national standards for book 1, and so we're already being taught in hundreds of schools across the nation, which is pretty cool. But it was a school, and the assignment was that they had to pick their favorite author. And I got 4 kids, and I thought, that's pretty good. Like in today's world with thousands of books and titles and hundreds of years of literature, and I'm like, just to even be on that list. And so I got 4 letters from kids, just the cutest thing. And then I got to write them back, of course, or I wrote the teacher and stuff. But this was from one. It was really cool. I'll just read it real quick. He says, "The entire Britfield series was very interesting and enjoyable to me, but I definitely liked Britfield and Return to the Prince the most out of all 3 books. I liked it most because of the storytelling and the plot was amazing, and the way it was described was just great. Sometimes because the book was so good, one could forget they were reading." And I just thought, wow. Isn't that a great comment? I mean,
that's powerful.
Like, so into it. And I think I used that as a segue into what we were talking about, why these books are so popular. And there's many reasons. Number one, there's an 85% gap worldwide for good, clean, family-focused, family-friendly content without all this sick, filthy garbage that's spewing out of Hollywood and out of the publishers. And it's crap. Let's call crap crap. And number two, it's just that it's a fast-paced, fun, exciting story, but it's authentic, and it's like kids can relate to Tom and Sarah. You'll never relate to Harry Potter, right? I mean, you cannot solve your problems by waving a wand, saying a spell, putting on a magic cloak. You don't have superpowers, and all this stuff. Really, it's to make kids feel less than they are, and then they want to be like a superhero. And it's just like, no, you're a superhero as you are. You're incredible. All children are born incredible. I don't care what your background is or any of that stuff. They're born creative. They're born with gifts, and they're amazing. And sometimes those gifts aren't nurtured at a young age, or things happen. And I get that, but I believe scientifically that all kids are born creative, and they're all born gifted, and they're all amazing. And you don't need all that crap. You know what I mean? You don't need that disconnect from reality, which is just coming out in forefront. So I'm getting that feedback from parents and from kids that are reading the series. It's just like, it was a really cute email I got about a couple months ago from a mom, and she said, "Oh, it was really great. We were sitting around our table, and they're all Britfield fans, and we're reading it." And I think the daughter said, if Tom was here right now, he would really like the meal we're having." I just thought it was just like a funny, cute comment. You know what I mean? But it was just so simple. We had another girl, Iris, out of Maryland, that read the book like 5 or 6 times, and she was so inspired she turned her room into an explorer room. And I thought, I don't know what an explorer room looks like, but that's pretty cool. It's better than a room about better than a room about witchcraft or vampires, right?
Yeah.
And so, and everything we've done the last 4 years has really been a soft launch. Next year's when we go global, and we go big. And we're working on the first of 7 movies right now. We'll be in pre-production in spring of next year, filming hopefully in England. And we can come back full circle, talk a little bit about London and England. We'll be filming in England next year, October, the same time next year, hopefully. And the first movie will be launched.
I'm going to purchase my ticket right now to go on set and see this.
I have a lot of people saying like, when's book 4 coming? Can we pre-order it? And I'm like, I wouldn't do that to you. It's going to be out another year, So yeah. It takes time. I'm writing book 4 now, about 70% done, and really excited about book 4. But I'm excited about all the books, and each one is they're like, what's your favorite? And I'm like, you want me to choose between my 3 children? It's like, right? And book 1's always my Star Wars. It's that fun, fresh launch of the series. They're 12 years old. And there's a big difference. You as a mom, and all moms can attest to this. There's a big difference between 12 and 13, right?
Yes.
And then from 13 to 14. And so, it's like a decade. I always say it's like one decade. It's like when you're older, 35 to 36, who cares? But right. At that age, and so as an author, it's really fun because I'm very aware of that age of 12, if you will, and to be careful in sort of the way you're crafting it. And then at 13, they're a little bit more mature, and they're thinking a little bit differently, and the language is a little bit different. And I don't mean foul language. I just mean, the way they're talking and thinking and communicating. And then 14. And so I'm kind of going back to when I was 14, and it's kind of fun in book 3 because Tom and Sarah are like, best friends. But there's just this slight little thread that Sarah's kind of starting to look at Tom, with interest, and it's just ever so slight. You know what I mean? And girls will catch up on it right away, like they always do. Like because I get feedback. I was like, will Tom and Sarah marry? It's like the cutest thing.
Oh, that's so cute.
But I'm just saying, it's like it's very subtle, and I'm very very careful with it because a little goes a long way. And it's more of what you don't show than what you show or say, and you don't say. You know what I mean? It's just a look. But I wouldn't do that in book 12, right. Or I wouldn't do that in book 1 when they're 12 or even 13. It's just different. You know what I mean? So I use those ages, which is fun for me as an author. And then going from England, in book 1 to France, which is amazing. It's a whole other country, whole other culture, whole other feel. And then Italy was great. Book 3, Florence, Rome, Venice. I mean, are you kidding me?
I'm seeing a pattern. I'm noticing all these write-offs that you can use for traveling internationally.
Yeah, there you go.
I think I've got you figured out. You're like, I want to go.
Need to go back to London. Business. Yeah.
Tom and Sarah going to Germany.
Yeah. There you go. I did get Berlin in book 4, so a little shout out to Germany and stuff. So
wow,
yeah, it's hard. I can't get them all in. I can't get all the countries in and stuff. But what's fun with book 4 is it starts in Vienna, Austria, gorgeous. And then it goes to Bratislava, Slovakia, and then a big scene in Prague in Czech Republic, and then Krakow and Warsaw, Poland, and then Berlin, and then the Baltic, and then we actually have Lithuania, we have Estonia, and then we have St. Petersburg, Russia, and Moscow, and that's book 4. So it's kind of fun. We're going from sort of country to country to country. So it's really Britfield in the Eastern Empire, and so it's like Eastern Europe. And then book 5 will be in Asia, starting in South Korea, and then book 6 will be in South America. And then we bring back the series to the United States for book 7, and there'll be 18 by that time. And so it's just this kind of world tour, fast-paced adventure, all real locations. Like I always say, like the other day I was editing and I was going back through the very beginning, and I was in Vienna, and so I'm pulling up and saying, what kind of flowers spring in April in Vienna, you know what I mean? And how cold is the temperature, and what's the distance from here to here, and what are the streets? And I'm pulling up maps, and I'm describing buildings, and I'm like saying, when was that found? So I mean, all of that is in there. I don't drown it with detail, which I think too many authors do. And I put just enough, and I frame it, but it's just like I really, really do how much does it cost in a cab fare from from this to this? How long would it take a train from Prague to Warsaw? Okay, 8 hours. How much would that cost? And so just those little threads are in there, and it just gives it that authenticity and stuff.
Right, because if they were to travel to these places, they're going to see those streets. If they were to get in a cab, they're going to have the same time of a drive and pay the same money. So I think that's really cool how you go there and you make sure that what you're putting in your book is accurate historically, which makes me want to ask you about the whole goal of this series. We talked about it being geographically correct and things of that nature. Is that a goal of yours in writing this series? The fact that it's not fantasy and that it is based.
Oh, absolutely.
You want to share history and teach that along the way? I
do, yeah. It really, as a historian, I was double major, British literature, European history. I've read, the last 4 years of all I've been doing is reading biographies. I love biographies, and history is fascinating. And so, and current and past. And so I always thread it in. It's like in book 1, you get a nice little dose of the Tudors and the Stewart dynasties, and what happened. Who is Britfield, and what is that? It's a royal mystery, and the Lost Crown, and why? How is Tom connected to that? And it's really wonderfully threaded through all the series. And you have kids that are actually reading it saying, I really like all the history. And it's like, excuse me, like when's the last time you hear a kid say that? But again, it's not a history book, you know what I mean? Like, as I was writing book 1, which was very difficult, right? It's like I have these big paragraphs, and I'm like, no, it's not a history book. It's not a travel book, right? It's an adventure book. It's a novel. And so these start to thin down. So I'll touch on it, or I'll frame stuff up, or I'll give a nice little description. But it's also to spark the imagination of the children as they're reading it. And I'm very careful in the way I write things. I don't drown it out with too much detail, and I don't waste a paragraph on describing how somebody looks. You know what I mean? He's tall, 6'2", with blonde hair and bright blue eyes. You know what I mean? With a nice coat. Boom, done. And you get these authors that it's like, with the watch that glistens and the blah blah, then his rings and blah blah blah, and it's just like, number 1, that has nothing to do with the story. Number 2, you're boring me to death. Number 3, you're taking away from it's not poetry. Do you know what I mean? And it's just like, and we've all read books like that. Most novelists do that, and I look at them as speed bumps or barbed wire. You know what I mean? Because it's like you're flowing with the story. You're into the story. I don't need to take 2 paragraphs for you to describe what a British morning looks like. You did that at the beginning. I get how the sun comes up and glistens on the bright leaves with the dew dropping and blah blah blah. And it's like, save that for your poetry book. Stick to the story. And so I really drive it, and it's interesting, 90% of the people that have read it said it reads like a movie, which I love. And I think that's because it's based on the 3-act structure. And I realized, I think in the last couple of months, really what I'm doing is I'm writing movies in novel form that will eventually become movies, and I never really kind of made that connection, but it's just like, we had a great comment last year from the Epoch Times that did a book review, and it says he read book 1 and 2 and 3, and he says it's a combination between C.S. Lewis and Dan Brown, and I thought it was really cool. Dan Brown, Da Vinci Code, that whole kind of movement, and then and then I just had a comment that says it reminded me of Oliver Twist, Les Miserables, Sherlock Holmes, and something else. And then someone else, I was talking with these homeschool parents, and they're like, yeah, it reminded me a little bit of the Bourne Identity. And I'm like, really? And she's like, it was so funny. I was talking to this one mom. I surprised a 13-year-old girl on her 13th birthday, and they're friends of parents that, friends that I know that friends. And so if there's any way you could come and surprise her, you're her favorite author. Britfield's her favorite series. She's read all the books like 3 or 4 times. And this is what's exciting, is this is a well-read 13-year-old, that's read all of Lewis and all of Tolkien and all the others out there. And just to even be within that vicinity is an honor. And so I showed up, blew her mind. I was there for about 2.5 hours, and we said that we had the best time. But it was funny. Her mom goes, yeah, I'm reading now because of my daughter's love of the books. I'm reading with her through it, and I'm seeing a lot of that. And she goes, you ever see 24 with Kiefer Sutherland? And I'm saying, are you kidding me? And this is my story. It's kind of fun. But when I was in Boston, when I was back east, years ago, I had a really good friend. He was like a Harvard professor. He was in linguistics and Russian. He taught Russian, and it's just like, way up there. And he's like, hey, you should check out that 24. It's pretty good. And I think it was in its 5th season. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know, like Kiefer Sutherland, I don't really want to watch that and stuff. And I'm like, all right, I'll give it a try. And I went to like Blockbuster at the time, and I got one video, it was like 7 at night. I'm like, I'll put it on. And all of a sudden it's like glued, like I watched all 4. It's like 11:30 at night. And so I binge watched for 3 weeks, all like 5 seasons. And like I'm like, okay, it's 9:30. I could do one more. And then when I was done with it is when I sat down and I started writing Britfield. And so it was just so funny that it was like, she didn't know that, but it was like this little secret that like I watched all of 24 like within 3 weeks, and then I sat down and started writing Britfield. And so I say that to say, and I tell people, I've done workshops and writing workshops, and I tell people, everything you want to learn about writing action, watch 24. That's it. Don't need to do anything else. Watch the 24 series. They raised the bar in television. They set a new standard in what to expect. Fast-paced, great storytelling, action, ending on action, taking it to the next level. And all that stuff is really what I learned from watching the series. And it went into Britfield. And so it's just really funny, all these different aspects of it. It's a combination between Dickens and Narnia and James Bond, so.
Do you recommend reading the books in order in the series, or are they any of them stand alone where someone could just jump in and read book 3?
Yeah, I don't know why you'd want to like jump in, and read 2 or 3, but it is interesting. And it's a great question, because I did make 2 when I wrote book 2, Britfield and the Rise of the Lion. And again, too, like it was my first series. So like, I'm like, okay, I gotta, like, what do you do for like book 2? And how much do you get in there? And so I did it where you could actually read book 2. It is standalone, where you don't have to necessarily read book 1. You could jump right into book 2 and have enough of it that I thread it through. And I do a little bit with the prologue and some other stuff with book 3, and to catch enough of it. And some stuff comes back, and little threads in here and there, because even for readers, it's like if they're waiting a year or a year and a half between each book too, they kind of forget too. And so you sort of thread a little bit in as a reminder, and for those that might not have read it.
So I want to ask you if this whole Britfield Institute, and we'll touch on that the next time, but
sure,
you are not just writing a book series, and then you're just not going to do a movie series, but you have gone into schools, you have this study guide, if you will, so that teachers can use this literature to teach from. And did this whole kind of empire concept come to you when you were just doodling in your boring insurance class that weekend?
Yeah.
Or did it just gradually all come to you that you could really infiltrate these areas that have been taken over by the left and take these areas back for the kingdom of God?
Amen to that. And I think at the end of the day, children at least deserve a choice, right? And people can sit here and whine and complain all day, or step up and do something about it. And we've all been called to do something. And if nothing more than raising your children right now to your best ability and bringing creativity and opportunity into their life, that's extraordinary, that alone, but if you're called beyond that to other things, fantastic. But it is interesting, that night, I'll never forget, I had like a one piece of paper, with bullet points as I outlined the book. It starts up in Yorkshire, and then Oxford, and then Windsor, and then London. And I was sitting there in this kitchen of a friend of mine. We were having dinner, she's preparing dinner. And that's when it hit me. It resonated. And I saw I saw how big this would be, which is interesting. And I don't say that for any reason. It's not a boast. It's because at that time, I was like, what in the world do I know about writing children's fiction? I'm not married. I don't have kids. I never wanted to be a novelist. I love movies, wanted to be involved in that industry, and I was writing movie scripts. But it's like, but I knew at that moment that this would be how big it would be, and the type of empire that we're building, and it's incredible. I mean, every single day we're having impact nationwide, worldwide. We just got done with the Frankfurt Book Fair last week. I'm very excited. I've got an incredible literary agent, Lori, and she had an incredible booth right next to Scholastic, which is the publisher of Harry Potter, which I thought was very cool. So they're looking over, seeing the balloon, and Britfield, and it's like, so there, But we just picked up a British distributor for the Britfield series now, and we're really excited. So we're kind of finalizing those details, which means it will now be distributed throughout Britain, into all the bookstores, to all the libraries, to all the schools, and Europe. And so that's huge for us. That's big. We picked up Lithuania, and we picked up the Czech Republic to be published. So what happens is they'll buy the rights to the trilogy, and then they'll translate it into their language, which is really great because that's part of our Eastern European strategy. Like, we have a global strategy over the next 25 years for Britfield, and we have an 18-month worldwide tour plan that will kick off next year, as we're literally traveling around the world, promoting Britfield, the movie, creativity, storytelling. So
I want to know how you promote and write at the same time. That sounds like that could be very challenging to manage time.
Yeah, I'm almost done with writing book 4. I'm 70% there, and I'll be done in the next 6 weeks. And so it's funny, the writing aspect of the story is about 20% of it. 80% is the editing and rewriting and editing. But the 20% is the hardest. I can edit anytime, anywhere, for hours, because you just start there and you're just reading through what you wrote. But to sit there with a blank page and have to figure out what comes next and who says what, and it's like, I kind of hit a wall. They're now in St. Petersburg, Russia, which is cool, and I wanted to get them to Russia, but it's like I just ran out of steam, and so I'm taking a little break. But I've been on a run for 10 months. I kicked off book 4 with the outline in January. And I spent 4 months just on the outline, the entire outline, every single scene in the book. So it's not like, I have a general idea where it starts and some of the scenes, and I start writing. And everyone's different. And that's kind of how book 1 started, quite frankly. I knew I wanted to go to Oxford, Windsor, London, but I didn't really outline much of it. I just sat down and kind of went with it. And then as I developed as an author with book 2, and then especially book 3, I outlined everything, and I had all the key scenes, all the characters, major character development. Where do they tie in? What's their, what do they want from the scene? What's the secret they're keeping? What's their main driver? All these things interwoven, throughout the story. But there is just book 1, Britfield the Lost Crown, is just packed with so much. I mean, for teachers or homeschoolers, it's like, get it, read it, and teach it, because it's so much fun. You can spend, and it's funny too, because I keep getting drawn back into book 1. Because last year, 18 months ago, we developed a theatrical play specifically for elementary middle schools based on book 1. So I took the 384 pages, turned it into a 90-minute 2-act play specifically for elementary and middle schools. And we piloted it last October for 4 nights to great success with over 30 actors, student actors, 4th through 8th. And it was just amazing. And then now we're working on, I was actually, before your interview, I'm reading the 3rd draft of the movie script, and I've got about another 45 pages to go. And so I keep coming back into book 1, you know what I mean? So it's like, because normally like an author's like, it's like, that's way back there. And it's like, I keep coming back to it even an hour ago. And, but it's just, I sometimes kind of forget like how much is in book 1. It's just got so much rich texture, storylines, subplots. They meet this Professor Hainsworth at Oxford. He's kind of a stuffy professor that's been there for 30 years and hasn't had a vacation in like years, and is very grumpy at first, but, just out of compassion decides to help them and try to help get them to London. And so he becomes this father figure, and it's just, he's like an extraordinary character. And it's just like, and then they crash land at Windsor, and they end up spending the night at Windsor Castle. And it's just, there's so much of this royal mystery and how, is Tom's parents alive? And if so, how is he connected to Britfield? And then the fact that Tom, of all people, ends up at Windsor, there's that sort of profoundness, right? It's just like if the Britfields are the real heirs to the British throne, which was usurped by the Windsor dynasty, and suddenly Tom's at Windsor Castle, the sort of, if you will, serendipity. You know what I mean? And there's so much of that in these books that it's like you could spend months dissecting it. You know what I mean? The factory, which is where all the orphans work, which is at Weatherly Castle. It really kind of represents the current school system, you know, because the industrial the typical public school system today was built on the industrial model, 19th century industrial model. It's never changed. You know, 40 hours a week, 5 days a week. You know, you get your whistles and bells. You know, your only qualification to be in the classroom is that you're 12. You know, you're taught to the test. The test doesn't test anything. You know, the SAT test was developed for the military, and after 5 years, it was ditched because it failed, and it was picked up into the educational system as the watermark. Are you kidding me? I mean, everything about it is false. So, and then you have a system that's been teaching creativity out of kids. And we've been in a creativity crisis as a nation for the last 30 years. But creativity is the number one most important skill set in the world right now. Not because I say it, it's a fact. It's not engineering, it's not mathematics, which is all replaced with AI and technology. Engineering's offshored, replaced by AI. It's not accounting. 80% of accounting jobs will be obsolete in the next 5 to 10 years. It's not law. 40 to 50% of all legal jobs will be obsolete in the next 5 to 10 years. One thing AI cannot replace is creativity.
That's right.
So really what we're trying to do is we're trying to put creativity back into the classroom, get kids thinking for themselves. Independent thinkers is what we need.
And, you know, so much of education is that children are taught what to think and not how to think. And I think the fact that you are encouraging creativity and critical thinking, it has been lost. And if you were to come in a classroom and the kids are sitting down and you said, okay, class, we are going to learn how to critically think today, or we're going to learn how to be creative today, I think you would have really bored looking kids and just sitting there. Whereas I believe you are almost accidentally, it's intentionally, but it probably feels accidental to them that they are starting to critically think and that their creative skills are getting honed and sharpened inadvertently by reading this book. And of course you have inspired that, and that is purely intentional, but I think it's pretty cool that this is happening just inadvertently without them even realizing it.
And again, too, like when I started this whole series 12 years ago, 10 years ago, I mean, like I wasn't thinking that, like with Britfield the Lost Crown, I'm like, we're going to hit on creativity and critical thinking community. You know what I mean? I was just trying to write a fun, fresh, fast-paced book that would be engaging and interesting and fun. And really, through my own travels, I lived in England off and on for 2 years. And so I wanted to sort of, share my experience and the beauty of England and history and architecture and culture and all of it. And then same thing with France and Italy. And it was just a way for me to share with you, the reader, the splendor and the wonderment of it all, and that it's real and that it's current. And it's harder, in my opinion, it's harder to write real fiction than fantasy, because in fantasy you can create your own world. You know, I've written myself into many holes or walls, you know, like because I get them stuck in a certain situation and I'm like, how did they get out of here? And again, I can't wave a wand and say, oh wait, what's that spell that we can walk through cement? You know what I mean? I mean, no. And so and I remember like when they crash landed in Oxford, and they were at this place like going through, and it's like, okay, so like we can't take the train because, you know, Detective Gowerstone is watching that, and we don't have enough money to take a cab, and it's too far to walk, and we're out of propane. And it's like, and I sat there and said, so what do they do? You know what I mean? So I've written myself into those saying I have to figure it out. I mean, I don't like suspending reality. It's fiction, so I think you can have a little fun, right? Just a little bit. You can bend it just a little bit every now and then, but you can't keep doing that. And I don't. I mean, I really like. I mean, I'm accurate on my times, and like if they're here and then they're there, it's like 3 hours. You know what I mean? It's 3 hours. It's like if they've spent 2 pounds out of a 10-pound note, they have 8 pounds left, and it's I mean, just every little detail that is real. That authenticity. I'm very aware of, and so I try to stay on track like that.
I want to share my screen here so that people who are watching on Rumble or YouTube can see. So if folks go to Britfield.com, this is what they'll see. Welcome to the world of Britfield. And I think it's pretty cool because you have noted here the awards and reviews. the tour, the store, and
Hit
then
the tour. Hit the
okay,
tour.
the
Yeah.
tour.
So hit the tour. This is kind of fun. So you can scroll down a little bit, and that's our national. That was our national tours. Isn't that great? Look at that
Wow.
big auditoriums.
Wow.
That's on the far left. That's 430 top private school in LA.
Wow.
That little classroom is in that with me pointing with the little balls in the air. That's Missoula. Was it? No, that's in Montana.
I
Little
love this little
Christian
boy. He
school.
looks very excited to get his
Right?
question answered.
Isn't that great?
Oh, so exciting. Wow, that is just massive right there. The gymnasium, that looks like a gymnasium.
It was incredible. The screen that I had behind me, I kid you not, was a movie screen size. And then there was two big screens, one on the left, one on the right, and they gave me this little headless wire mic. And so I was telling my team, I said, from now on, this is our standard.
Yeah, right.
It was like so cool. So yeah, now go up to the play. This is real fun.
Up
Got a
here.
minute. Yeah. I'm sorry, all the way to the end to the play.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Yeah, play. And then this is our play. It's all ready to be downloaded to schools, homeschool groups. Those are scenes from it.
Well, I know in my son's Christian school, they have a play every year, and how cool it would be to do this.
Are you kidding me?
Like, so great.
It's got speaking roles for over 30 actors. They're involved throughout. There's no musical, so you're not alienating 80% of your students.
You can't sing.
And there's that. Isn't that a great picture? Look at that. That's 30.
That's lovely.
30.
Wow. Yeah. I can't wait to talk to some schools about this. I think this is just brilliant. And really, I know we talked about this a little bit before the show, Chad, but I remember when Harry Potter came out, and I remember pushing back because of the sorcery and witchcraft.
Sure.
I just said, I can't do it. I just cannot do that. And people will say, you know what they say. Oh, but it gets kids to read, and that's so good for them. And I just said, I believe God's big enough that my child will get into reading something different. And I'm not poisoning his mind with this. I was adamant.
Yeah.
I never bowed, and the peer pressure would come on. Even at his Christian school, his friends were allowed to read it. And I said, I'm so sorry, but this does not line up with what the Bible says. I refuse to have you put this in your eyes. The Bible says to guard your heart, because out of it flows the issues of life. And so when I saw this, I thought, this is brilliant. And it is about time that we have something not even similar, but better, that encourages the critical thinking and teaches history and creativity. And because fantasy, that's great with creativity, but it's not teaching really anything historically, because it's not accurate. So
you're not going to learn anything from it. You know what I mean? Because you're not a witch. You're not a demigod. You're not a superhero. It's interesting too, because I've had so many kids that have read the Britfield series and like it far more than Harry Potter, which again, that's a compliment. But it was interesting too, because I think it was like a couple months ago, maybe 6 weeks ago, and they play it on television all the time, and I don't really watch normal TV, but you flip around every now and then when you're eating a sandwich. Right. And they had Harry Potter, and I was kind of watching it for like 10 or 15 minutes, and it just struck me for the first time in such a different way, where I thought it looked kind of silly. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I mean, it's because it's so, I mean, you look at Britfield the Lost Crown, I'm like, here's Tom and Sarah. They have no magical powers. I mean, they're being chased. They're roughing it out. They're doing the very best they can. They're using logic and courage and hard work and determination, and they're getting it done, and they're moving through these stories. And then you look at like Harry Potter, and it just honestly just kind of struck me as silly. It's because it's like, well, Tom didn't have a wand to wave, or Sarah didn't say a spell, or Tom couldn't fly, or say Shazam, or you know what I mean. And it's like it just kind of puts Britfield up here with reality and real fiction and a real story, and then all the other stuff down here. It's like a great meal or McDonald's,
right? And don't you think that the things that they will learn from Tom and Sarah, the critical thinking, the persistence, the resilience, that possibly when they're older, they'll remember, especially if they really align with these characters young and fall in love with these characters when they're older, they might say, what would Tom do in this situation? What would Sarah do in this situation? And just really be great role models for these kids for the rest of their lives.
It is, and that's why it's very specific, everything that we've done, to pick 12 years old for book one, and Tom and Sarah at 12. 12 is such a absolute critical age in a child's youth, as all parents know. And it's from 13 on, things start to change and switch, but you can really hit them. I mean, especially at 8 or 9, 10 to 12 is critical to catch them and capture them, because it's impressions that will never leave them for the rest of their life. And so you're very accurate and you're very right. I still remember my 6th grade class like it was yesterday. I remember the people that were in it. I remember the assignments, because we had a great 6th grade class. We had a great 6th grade teacher. Our first assignment, no, not our first assignment, but one of our assignments in the class, and it was worth like 30% of our grade, was to write a book. And I think it had to be 20 to 25 pages. And again, and we didn't have computers too, so it was like, you were writing it out, and it could be like a paragraph and then like a picture and then a couple paragraphs and stuff like that. But that's, for like a kid, it's like, oh my gosh, like just to write a page is a lot. And but had to do it, and thank God for that. Thank God for her being that teacher, because kids will never know what they're capable of doing until you've given them an opportunity to do it. And that's why I said giving kids as much opportunity as possible. You don't need to throw money at it. We can't afford it. You can't afford not to do it, but it doesn't cost you anything to take them to the library, the park, the museum, etc. And so my first official book was called James Bond, Eat Your Heart Out. I wrote about what I love, and I wrote about what I knew, and I love James Bond movies. And I think it's like it was A Spy Who Loves Me and Moonraker, right, with Roger Moore. And so I'm a 12-year-old secret agent working for the British government. I'm living in England, of course, and I'm living at this beautiful Tudor style mansion down in Hampshire, of course. And I've got a cherry red Ferrari.
Oh my.
And it's kind of funny. This dates me, but my partner was Jacqueline Smith from Charlie's Angels.
Of course.
It's in there. It's like Jacqueline Smith. And I'm like, Jacqueline, we just got a mission. We got to go. And she gets in the car. And I really have some fun humor in it too.
Do you still have that somewhere, that book?
I do. I have the official. I have it. It's really cool. And
I did sell that on Amazon as well.
Oh, it's priceless. And we're chasing this villain all through Europe, and finally to Switzerland. And then you look 40 years later, you look at Britfield the Lost Crown. England, 12 years old, adventure series going around the world. So amazing. Hopefully that emphasizes the impact of 12 years old, that assignment. And again, I didn't write that book, finish it. I got some great, accolades from the kids. Oh, neat story. But I wasn't like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be an author. I didn't have that revelation. I wasn't into writing, but I never forgot it. And it was a seed that was planted inside me and until that right moment. And then, there's a great quote by Jane Austen, that you're never too old to become what you could be. You're never too old to become what you could be. I love that. And then I love another one by Amelia Earhart. What do dreams know of boundaries? What do dreams know of boundaries? Right. And we're in a society today where it's like, no, and you can't do this. And there's another great poem out there. You can pull it up called Can't. And it's like, can't's the worst word you can have in your vocabulary. Can't do this. You can't do that. You can't, why limit your abilities? Why limit your future and stuff? So
that's so good. Well, Chad, thank you for carving out some time for us today at Moms on a Mission. It was such a joy and pleasure to meet you and hear all about the Britfield series and the film series that's coming out and the plays that various schools can utilize. And so we just thank you so much for sharing this vision. I believe this is downloaded directly from heaven and going to be used to recapture our youth and point them back to him. So thank you so much. And how can folks find you and connect with you and follow the Britfield movement?
Yeah, I mean, we're on social media, although we're not big social media people. Our impact is really directly to the schools and other means. But the website's great, the Britfield.com website. It's an award-winning website. We have over 400 pictures of England. So all the places that Tom and Sarah go, which is kind of, you saw the top, and then below that, you see like Weatherly and then Oxford. Yeah, actually go down a little bit. Good, there you go. And then hit London. Go up a little bit, up, and then over. Okay. Yeah. So hit London, and then you can hit London.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's
it's really cool. So there's an interactive map, so you can zoom in and zoom out, and then it shows all the different pictures of where they go.
Oh wow.
Yeah, wow. Keep going down, Ro. Keep going down though. Yeah, because some of the pictures are just stunning. Look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? It's Royal Albert Hall.
Royal Albert Hall. Wow.
Look at that.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
And you were there. See,
yes,
right?
I was right there.
Yeah. Look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? So it's just a beautiful way of Buckingham Palace.
Yeah, so beautiful. Wow. So this is so great how it's just in a sneaky manner, educating the kids. I just think it's awesome. I just think it's awesome. Well,
real places, right? Real places. Go figure.
And just even getting on the website, and they can learn just so much by getting on Britfield.com. So
sure.
Thank you so much. And let's go and get this book. I've already bought mine for my son. So I'm going to get him the other two as well. And let's just spread the news with our schools, with our friends, and just share this Britfield movement that really is spreading across the globe. So thank you so much.
Gift. Yes. With the holiday, perfect gift.
Oh, yes. Yeah. You could stick
grandparents,
it in stockings.
Yeah. Or parents. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And remember, half our audience are adults. So, surprise someone with a really cool book. It's just, I'll be honest. I had fun last year. I went back and I read all three, the Mouse and the Motorcycle series by Beverly Cleary. It'd been 40 years. And I'm like, let's go back to that. That was fun. I just got done reading all of Roald Dahl's books, James and the Giant Peach, and obviously Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I mean, amazing epic stories. And I'm reading the Hardy Boys again. And I'm reading other books, of course, but it's just fun to spend a little bit of time and just read some stuff that's just good and that wonderment and that simplicity of youth. And so, anyway.
I love that you do that, not just historically and geographically study, but also reading other series and things of that nature and just picking up tips where you can. So I think that's good wisdom as well. But thank you so much, Chad, for joining us.
You're welcome.
We still appreciate you. And we thank you guys so much for listening to our Moms on a Mission podcast today. And go to Britfield.com or Amazon or wherever and get your books today. It's going to be an amazing ride watching Chad and this movement spread across the globe. And we appreciate you. We'd love to hear from you. You can email us at moms@momsonamission.net. That's moms@momsonamission.net. And then our website is momsonamission.net. And we would love for you to follow us on your favorite platform. We prefer Rumble because it's uncensored. Some of our content can't go on YouTube. So if you'll follow us on Rumble, that would be awesome. Just put in Moms on a Mission in the search engine and then click the follow icon, and then you'll be notified of new episodes. So thank you all so much for listening, and God bless. In light of recent bank volatility and skyrocketing inflation, diversification is a must. That's why I use my good friend Andrew Sorcini at Beverly Hills Precious Metals. Beverly Hills Precious Metals makes it so easy to diversify. I personally ordered some silver and it arrived on my doorstep just a few days later. They make it so easy. And if you're not ready to do that and you just want to ask a few questions, they're there for you too. I personally got some silver and also am rolling over some of my IRA. You can actually roll over your IRA and have it be backed by silver and gold. So if you don't have any extra money to invest in silver and gold, rolling over a 401k or an IRA, or even part of it, if you just want to try it at first, just for a little bit, you can do that as well. So go to bh-pm.com today and ask all your questions. You can connect with somebody. And like I said, you can just get some information at first if you want and pray about it, and then get back with them to roll over part of your IRA or all of it, or order some gold and silver. That's bh-pm.com. and tell them that Moms on a Mission sent you. Hey, everybody. Did you know that recent research from the CDC says that millions of Americans develop parasitic infections and symptoms often go unnoticed or are misdiagnosed? Parasites are actually the cause of many health problems such as anxiety, depression, chronic pain, fatigue, and unexplained digestive issues. We all need a common sense strategy to improve our health. Moms on a Mission encourages you to reach out to our good friend, Dr. Jason Dean. Dr. Dean's Full Moon Protocol provides all natural detoxification and fights inflammation. And the supplements are made with 100% organic ingredients and are proven to kill parasites safely and effectively. I know after I took Full Moon Protocol, I had more energy. To order your Full Moon Protocol today, go to bravetv.store/mission to save $20 off your first order. That's bravetv.store/mission. According to leading sleep experts and sleephealth.org, over 50 million Americans struggle getting a good night's rest. That's why Moms on a Mission loves MyPillow. MyPillow makes amazing pillows, sheets, mattress toppers, robes, towels, literally almost everything you need for a good night's sleep. They also make dog beds for your dogs. So by going to mypillow.com, typing in the code MISSION, you not only receive a high quality product, but you're supporting Moms on a Mission and this podcast. If you like what you're hearing and you agree with it, you believe in it, and you want to support Moms on a Mission, then go to mypillow.com today and order some high quality products and just type in the code MISSION at checkout and you can save up to 66% off. That's mypillow.com, code MISSION.
Since 2014, Organic Body Essentials has offered clean, simple, certified organic skincare. Our organic face-to-feet and federally compliant hemp and pet products are manufactured under USDA and FDA guidelines. Our products are inspired by God using plants He created. In Ezekiel 47:12, it says, "The fruit is for food and the leaves for healing." We believe in the power of God to heal, so we pray over our products and for our customers. Our therapy in a bottle approach has been widely received, and our customers' testimonials continue to inspire us. You can find us at organicbodyessentials.com and obe.organicbodyessentials.com. Please feel welcome to reach out with questions. Use coupon code MISSION at checkout for a discount. Thank you for your support by using MISSION at checkout to benefit Moms on a Mission and their quest to reestablish traditional values in our education system and empowerment for a healthy lifestyle.